Hello and welcome to The Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm looking at the 2013 to 2015 series, Ghosted. Ghosted is pretty much in almost every way, shape, and form your typical heist story. You got a smart-mouthed old con who's just the asshole for the job, putting together a team of the absolute best people in the world, a careful study of their target, and a perfect plan that of course goes 100% south and explodes in their faces, forcing them to think on their feet as the situation gets increasingly intense. And depending on how you feel about that kind of plot, that may or may not be a good thing. But what sets this series apart from literally any other heist story is that the thing they're stealing isn't money or art or anything that'll make them rich. It's a ghost. And just how does one go about stealing a ghost? Well, let's find out and take this away. The comic begins by introducing us to the douchebag that, unfortunately, will be our main character for this entire series, Jackson Winters. He's currently in jail after his one last job went about as wrong as it could go and everyone in his crew ended up dead. Bit of a grammar error there. That should probably say, all of my friends are dead. Now that sounds like the start of a horror comic, or a buddy comedy. He's only locked up for a few pages though before a prison riot is staged and this woman named Anderson Lake shows up to bust him out. Anderson works for an old rich man named Marcus Schrecken, whose name is more likely than not a reference to the actor Max Schreck, most famous for playing Count Orlok in the classic horror film Nosferatu. Schrecken's an eccentric billionaire collector of rare supernatural artifacts, and he has a desire to get something that will really top off his collection. A ghost. It seems the world-renowned haunted Trask mansion, an admittedly pretty awesome-looking old house, is about to be demolished, and before it is, Schrecken would like to steal a ghost from it. Since Winters is supposedly some great thief, Schrecken believes him to be just the man for the job. Winters agrees to the job with surprisingly little prompting, though considering the alternative is going back to jail for the rest of his life, I guess the choice is pretty obvious. He doesn't leave before slapping around his new employer for a bit though, claiming some kind of moral high ground about just leaving the dead alone. I'm not buying it though, as his terms for accepting the job include a suit like Sinatra might wear, and a Russian prostitute with big breasts, though he doesn't care if either the breast or the Russian-ness are real. Not liking this guy so far. He also demands to be able to put together his own team and come up with his own plan, because this is a heist story after all. So he gathers together a quick group. Oliver King, a supposed human lie detector, Robbie Trick, an old stage magician and black market dealer, Joe and Jay Burns, the sons of Winter's old tech man, who are ironically TV ghost hunters, and a psychic, Edzia Rusnik, who is recommended by Schrecken. Because of that, Winters doesn't trust her, a suspicion that seems to be justified when they show up to the mansion and ask her if she detects anything. She seems to detect a lot, but with a suspicious little smile, answers that she's not detecting anything. Yeah, totally buying it. I'm going to be honest, I expected the rest of this scant 20 issues to be about the investigation of this mansion and the capturing of a ghost, as it slowly becomes more and more obvious that ghosts really truly exist. Instead, this series practically drops us headfirst into the fact that ghosts are real, and things start getting crazy right away. Our first indication is when Trick finds a secret passage that leads him to a crazy ghost dimension. I'd say it looks like the inside of the Ecto containment unit, but no one would get that joke. Trick closes his eyes, and when he opens them again, he instead finds a creepy concrete room with a singular chair inside, which actually seems to freak him out more. Immediately after that, we see this painting watching Lake and Winters, though they don't notice. They're too busy with one of many conversations painting Winters as a really gross character. Yeah, I hate him too, Lake. This isn't even the worst conversation. That came earlier, as they were waiting for everyone to show. I think this was supposed to pass as witty banter between the two, but it doesn't. It just makes me hate the main character. We then see Jay and Joe setting up cameras, and Joe sees a ghost on the screen. He thinks it's about to attack Jay, but instead, he's the one who gets the spectral visit. And we get our first death of Winters' group. Before long, Winters is seeing a full-formed ghost of his own, who mind melds with him to show him the past and a possible future that sees his new team as a sick reflection of his old team. Meanwhile, King finally comes up with this obviously awesome plan to steal a ghost. That's a great plan, King, but why do you have the art skills of a first grader? Before they can act on their plan, Trick gets possessed, and as he's the only one who claimed to be able to perform an exorcism, that leaves them in a spot of trouble. King knocks out Trick, and they try to get out of the mansion anyway, but Lake for some reason stops them and demands that they figure out how to get the ghost out of Trick or nobody can leave. Which, like, what? This was still basically part of the plan. I don't see how this sudden turncoat makes any sense whatsoever. What was her goal here exactly? The only function this seems to serve is getting the other Burns brother and his skeleton camera crew killed off by some ghosts, so we can get rid of the last of the unimportant characters. There's then another double cross as Ezia, who had been working for Shrekken, which is why she lied about detecting the ghosts earlier, suddenly decides she's working with Winters and sucks all the ghosts in the house into Anderson, which conveniently also gets the ghost out of Trick. Turns out Shrekken killed his sister, the lady in red Winters saw earlier, as well as the rest of the Trask family in order to curse them to be ghosts. By turning them into ghosts and trapping them inside the mansion, he was able to gain immortality. Man, I feel like I've heard this exact plot somewhere before. Where could it have been? With the house threatened to be destroyed, the ghost would be freed and Shrekken would lose his immortality, which is why he needed Winters to steal the ghosts first. What remains of Winters and his group deliver the possessed Anderson to her boss, where she serves as a sort of ghost bomb. Under control of Shrekken's sister, Anderson slices her own throat, unleashing all the ghosts at once. King, the doubter, is apparently destroyed by what he saw. Ezia starts a World of the Psychic TV show, Trick returns to his old, tricks, and Winters moves on to live on Shrekken's private island that doesn't really look all that private. But despite this apparently happy ending, things don't stay so great for long, as soon someone comes to the island who recognizes Winters, prompting Winters to shoot him down and kick his dead body into the ocean. I'm really unclear on how Winters is supposed to be less of a villain than Shrekken. Despite needlessly killing this guy, his past still catches up to him with a bullet. Well, with lots of bullets really. So Winters and Trick die. The end. Oh, what? They're saving his life? Lame. It seems another rich person has need of these skills of his that seem much more fabled than ghosts do at this point. This time, it's the Native American owners of the casino that Winters tried to steal from with his previous crew that all died. The owner's granddaughter, Nina Bloodcrow, has been kidnapped by a group called the Brotherhood of the Book, who have also possessed her with a ghost. What? So Jackson, Trick, and a man named Skinner head down to some haunted Aztec ruins for another heist. Here they learn that the Brotherhood is basically a sex cult, because having sex with a possessed girl is apparently quite something. What? I mean, they showed this as a possessed person earlier, so I'm not sure who would see something like that and be like, yeah, I want to tap that. But hey, more power to ya. We also see that when they're burning out, the girls are put to work writing books of the dead that they then sell in occult shops around the world. Oh, Brotherhood of the Book. Now I get it. When the girls burn out on writing, their skin is flayed from their bodies and used as bindings for the other girls to write further books of the dead on. Gross. Speaking of gross, this gross-out old guy called the Maestro runs the Brohood and invites Winters to join their exclusive club, obviously sensing another D-bag in their midst. Surprisingly, Winters declines, opting to instead grab Nina and run into the woods, where they get stopped by the ghosts of animals. Okay, so Grandma Bloodcrow decides if you want something done right, do it yourself, and so she makes a deal with Maestro to get Nina back. Unfortunately, this blows up in their face when Winters runs his mouth off, pissing off Nina enough for her ghost form to take over, causing her to turn into this weird-ass thing. Oh, Bloodcrow. Now I get it. Ghost Nina takes care of all their captors, and Grams, since it turns out all she really cared about was controlling the ghost inside of Nina. But unfortunately, in the squabble, Trick gets dead, when Skinner shoots him through the head. Aw man, for a dirty rotten old scoundrel, he wasn't so bad. He was at least better than Winters. Nina and Winters grab their books and try to escape, only to be intercepted by the return of King and his new pals, the FBI. The FBI wants Winters to help them track down a magician named Damien Charon, though turns out his actual name is Danny Trick. Okay, now he just sounds like someone's created character from a Tony Hawk game. But his skills aren't with a skateboard, but as a stage musician, just like his old pops, the recently departed Bobby Trick. To help convince Winters to join, the FBI introduces him to this old voodoo lady. Aw, look at that. She made a doll and it looks just like you. To prove a point about a curse on Winters, she stabs the doll in the heart. And, well, nothing. That's a pretty good bit, actually. But Winters isn't the only one with a look-alike doll. The old lady also pokes a king doll, sending him into a fit of pain. She's definitely my favorite character. Unfortunately, that's basically the last we see of her. The rest of this story just sees Winters and Nina, as she's been dragged into this too for some reason, hunting down Danny Trigg. At first they feel sorry for him because of his recently departed dad, but turns out Tricky D already knew and didn't care. His focus has been on killing people to tie their souls to some special candles made from virgin blood, and then using the candles to control the spirits. Nina, again, is the one to save the day, blowing out Trick's candles when he's distracted, causing him to be torn apart by the ghost of Anderson, who has been kind of haunting Winters. It's not terribly important. And when all the controlled ghosts get pulled away here, Anderson goes with them. Which brings us to our final arc, where we see Edzia get a visit on the set of her TV show by a still-alive Shrekken, who kidnaps her for no apparent reason and takes her to Germany. Why not? There, Shrekken uses an old feud between two families to ignite a bloodbath that ends with the death of everybody in the entire town. This creates a ghost town, which allows Shrekken to open a portal to the ghost realm. With his original plan for immortality destroyed by Winters, Shrekken's new plan is to still death itself. To do this, he gets Nina and Winters into the ghost realm, where he quickly kills Winters. Wait, really? Sweet. Comic over? No? What? We still have an entire issue left? Turns out, even death is just another weird old person offering Jackson a job. Yeah, the job of death. What? So, not only does Winters not die, he becomes the new Grim Reaper and immediately sets about, not reaping. In fact, he grants Shrekken the thing he's been seeking this whole time. Immortality. What? But it's okay, I guess, because Shrekken ends up trapped in the ghost dimension, while everyone else returns safely home. Except for Winters himself, who goes on to become, well, the Reaper. Duh. The comic ends with one last look in at the FBI, with King and Edzia agreeing to continue to work for the FBI, and Nina, what? Yeah, I guess she's supposed to be the new Jackson Winters or something? I don't know. Let's just get to the breakdown. Some of the ghost lore and plotlines of this comic were actually interesting. Also, having the comic to turn out to be 4 rapid-fire arcs instead of the entire series being a single heist actually really helped it, I think, keeping the plot moving enough to keep it from being too boring, which was a risk it definitely faced. The art is pretty nice too. While nothing mind-blowing, it certainly is strong enough that I never had issue telling who the characters were, and I especially liked the way the various ghosts were depicted throughout the series. So it's all kind of a shame that the series was bogged down by an absolutely despicable and obnoxious main character, who was also unfortunately pretty much the most interesting character, as basically all the other characters were pretty flat or dull. The few characters that had some personality, primarily the 2 Tricks, or Anderson, were killed off pretty quickly. Though at least we did get to have Anderson's ghost hanging around. It's just too bad that most of that was just conversations where Jackson stood on some bizarre moral high ground that he definitely had no right to claim. So, all in all, I'm giving this series a recommendation level of low. Wish I could say that the whole comic was as interesting as the concept, but truth be told, nothing about it was interesting enough to make it worth putting up with that main character. Thanks everybody for watching. Sadly, that leaves only one Friday in October, so I only have one more week of Ghosts and Demons for you. Next week is a comic I'm really excited to finally be covering on this channel, so make sure you stick around for that. Hope to see you then, right here in the Comic Cave.